Hello and welcome to the first edition of the India Today Defence Conclave, your best forum to understand the changes affecting one of the world's largest defence sectors. 2020 has been a year of unprecedented change and challenges. India has had to deal with a pandemic, an economic downturn, and a national security challenge on its borders. But as they say in India, sometimes it takes a crisis to bring about change. What are the changes this sector is going through? We'll let you know. We would like to thank our presenting sponsor, the Darwin Platform Group of Companies, and our associate sponsors, Navantia and Solar Group. I would now like to call upon Mr. Raj Chingappa, Group Editorial Director, Publishing, India Today Group, to please inaugurate the summit.
Hello, on behalf of the India Today Group, I'm delighted to welcome you to this special Defence Conclave put together by India Today magazine. We are all aware of the external threats that India faces, even as we combat some of the gravest internal threats caused by the COVID pandemic. Our borders have turned hot with conflict. China has shown its aggressive intent on the line of actual control, and for the first time in 45 years, shots have been fired and precious lives lost. Even as our brave armed forces counter China's aggressive intent, Pakistan has been up to no good and made the line of control a bloody battle zone again. With two unsettled borders and two nuclear-armed hostile neighbors, India faces enormous security challenges. To meet them, India has the world's second largest army, the fourth largest air force, and the seventh largest navy. It is one of the world's top 5 defense spenders, spending over rupees 4.7 lakh crores on defense annually. But it also has the dubious distinction of being the world's second largest importer of defense hardware. Between 2014 and 2019, India accounted for 9.5% of the global sales of weapons. India's armed forces now face 3 major challenges. The first is modernizing its aging military hardware. The second is indigenizing its military hardware to ensure it is self-sufficient. And the third is harmonizing its combat power to ensure it can defend its borders and territory against any security threat. In 2020, the Modi government has rolled out a series of measures aimed at reforming its military and reducing its dependence on imported arms. The Defense Ministry's Atmanirbhar Bharat initiative, launched this May, has seen it roll out some of the biggest policy incentives to boost indigenous defense manufacturing and make India a hub of defense equipment. The Defense Ministry has set an ambitious target of doubling India's current turnover of $12 billion in defense manufacturing to now $25 billion or rupees 1.75 lakh crores in the next 5 years. This includes an export target of $5 billion, equivalent to rupees 35,000 crores worth of military hardware. The government has given a commitment of orders of rupees 50,000 crores annually to the Indian defense industry. It has also hiked FDI in defense under the automatic route from 49% to 74% now. These goals are enshrined in the biggest post-independence defense reforms announced by the Modi government in 2020. These include the creation of the new Chief of Defense Staff, an office of the Department of Military Affairs, turning the 40 defense ordnance factories into corporates with accountability, and rolling out a new defense acquisition policy. All these are aimed at rationalizing our resources, bringing in jointness in the armed forces response, and realizing the country's goals of establishing a world-class indigenous defense industrial base. Naturally, the new policy has led to sharp debates on the kinds of changes it hopes to usher in. As the country's most read magazine, India Today has taken the initiative to stir the discourse in this direction by bringing together key stakeholders from the armed forces, the defense ministry, and the scientific community to discuss the major issues. So, sit back and watch the upcoming sessions in this conclave that will provide you with a clearer perspective and clarity on the big issues confronting India's defense sector. Thank you.
the Defense Ministry's vision for an Atmanirbhar Bharat. The defense sector is very unique in that the government is both the largest manufacturer and the only buyer of defense equipment. This is now beginning to change, with the government opening the sector up to private industries as a second growth engine. Driving this change is the Defense Ministry, and I spoke with Sri Rajkumar, Secretary, Department of Defense Production in the Defense Ministry. Joining him on this panel discussion are Mr. M.V. Gautama, Chairman and Managing Director, Bharat Electronics Limited, and Mr. Satyanarayan Naval, Chairman, Solar Industries. What's the Defense Ministry's vision for an Atmanirbhar Bharat? What would a level playing field for the public sector and the private sector look like? Let's find out. Hello and welcome to another installment of the India Today Defense Conclave, where we discuss issues concerning one of the world's largest militaries as it embarks on its twin goals of modernization and indigenization. I want to first go over to Mr. Raj Kumar, the Secretary Defense Production, to give us the Defense Ministry's vision of an Atmanirbhar Bharat. How is the Defense Ministry going to achieve the targets that it's set for itself?
As you all know that this year is full of challenges to all of us and particularly to our country. COVID-19 has clearly taught us the importance of self-reliance or Atmanirbharta in the matter of public health. This is a global challenge and we all are facing it together. Government as well as the public and all organizations, we are both sufferers, but we are also the warriors. All of us are fighting it, and I can tell you, Bell has done fantastic job in providing 30,000 ventilators in a record time of just 3 months, and at a very, very competitive rate when the entire country was under lockdown. So this is the spirit with which our organizations in the country and the government put together are fighting the crisis of COVID-19. Now, in this context, I see that defense is not very different. Defense has also to go to the theme of self-reliance or Atmanirbharta. We cannot rely upon others to fulfill our defense needs. That is what the lesson, was there within us. We were not saying it so publicly, but now COVID-19 has given us the strength to say so that defense is our own problem and we have to sort it out ourselves. We need to be self-reliant in all respects. Fact remains that over the last decades, DRDO has developed more than 1,000 plus defense technologies. So we are proud of DRDO. We are proud of our Indian industry, which has partnered with DRDO in taking these technologies forward into production and meeting the needs of our defense services. Today, we are self-reliant in areas like missiles, sonars, light combat aircraft, fourth-generation military aircraft, frigates, corvettes, artillery guns, small arms, carbines, and to a large extent, the entire range of ammunition. We have a strong base of defense industries. I can say that DPSUs, as they are doing fantastic jobs, so is the private sector, which has come up of age in our country, and they are, equally contributing to this task of self-reliance or Atmanirbharta. So, as of now, in the opinion of Ministry of Defense, we have got sufficiently, strong base of indigenous technology, domestic manufacturing capability to meet our own defense needs. I can take you a bit backward and say that in 2016, the defense procurement procedure itself, we said that by Indian IDDM, which is called Indigenous Design and Manufacturing, Development and Manufacturing Capability, that will be our default option. That means whenever we try to buy something for our armed forces, the first charge would be given to Indian defense industry if they are having indigenous design development capability. That is what will be our first and most important goal. Then also we said we wanted to involve other than DRDO, the Indian industry in the development of technology. So that is where we brought in the concept of make one, make two, and that is how we wanted to promote indigenous R&D capability, design capability with the visibility of long-term orders. So that is how in 2016 we started this process of developing and relying on our own indigenous design capabilities and manufacturing capabilities. So now what is so different in 2020? We were just to need to have a kind of declaration of confidence and faith in our own capabilities. That is how I look at it. The Make in India or to the next level, which we call as Atmanirbhar or self-reliant. I'll tell you about the approach, that we took in respect of Atmanirbhar and defense in different sectors. For example, defense manufacturing. You yourself just mentioned, that we have put embargo on import of defense weapons, equipment, platforms from specified dates. To encourage and build domestic defense capabilities, first list of such 101 items has already been published in the month of August. And our Chief of Defense Staff is in the process of, preparing another such list of embargo on import of defense equipment and platforms. Similarly, expression of our confidence was that now we are willing to open up our FDI in defense up to 74% and through automatic route. Because we understand, some of the defense technologies are such, where the OEMs are not willing to share it with us. So we said, okay, you come and set up your manufacturing capability base in India, continue to own technology, retain it with you, but meet our needs by setting up your manufacturing unit in the country. And you cater to our needs, and also if you so wish, you can use that manufacturing facility for export market. Another important decision was that to have a separate budget head for domestic capital procurement. The idea was, that there was always a kind of between the priority for spending money on imported item and spending money on the domestic capital procurement. So to do away with that kind of ambiguity, we said that there be a dedicated. More importantly, what we did in the beginning of last month, 1st October 2020, we changed the entire paradigm of defense acquisition procedure. Earlier, it was known as defense procurement procedure. Now it is called defense acquisition procedure. And we brought in certain, subtle and fundamental changes. For instance, Buy Indian category, which is called indigenous design, development, and manufacturing, as a default category of procurement. It was here earlier also, but we increased the level of indigenous content from 40% to 50%. In addition to Make One, Make Two, and strategic partnership model, and Buy Indian IDDM categories, now these things have been reserved, as you can see, exclusively for Indian owned and controlled entities, where we are expecting them to aid to the domestic manufacturing capability. To facilitate setting up of manufacturing units in niche, high-tech areas where probably we lack technology, we have added one more category, which is called Buy Global Manufacture in India. That means the global entity will have to set up their manufacturing unit to meet part or let's say substantive demand domestically. We have also included the reforms in general staff qualitative requirements, the parameters, based on which the acquisition process proceeds. Offsets, that's another area, where we expect the OEMs to promote the industrial capabilities domestically. So we have now focused on attracting investments and acquisition of niche technology as part of the offset reforms. We have set up a portal which is called Srijan Defense Portal, which lists more than 5,000 items worth more than 12,000 crore rupees of imports in the last 3 years. We have opened it up to our domestic defense industry and thrown a kind of challenge to them that these are the items which we are importing over the years. Come forward. You can have either technology transfer with the OEM or develop your own capabilities and provide us indigenous solutions. What we see that this defense acquisition procedure 2020 will further our goal of indigenization and Atmanirbhar in defense. Now let me come to the defense R&D per se. So in R&D, as I said, DRDO over the years has already developed more than 1,000 plus technologies and made us self-reliant. DRDO has also, done kind of, liberalization. They are providing free access of indigenous defense research technologies for eligible Indian companies free of cost. The only rider is that if you manufacture the product based on DRDO technology, if it is for armed forces, they don't charge any royalty. Only if you use it for exports, you use it for non-defense uses, then you have to pay a pittance, just 2% of royalty. Then during the process of R&D, we have now started involving the Indian defense industry. This is called development cum partnership production partner model. So while they take up the challenge for developing the technology, they also invite Indian industry to come and partner with DRDO. And once the technology is developed, it is given free of cost to the partner. And any other industry, if they are willing to take the technology, they are just charged 5% of the technology cost. So this is what liberalization DRDO has done in their setup, and we are encouraging growth of indigenous defense industry. How do we develop a culture of innovation, defense innovation in general in the country? So we launched a program called Innovation for Defense Excellence in 2018 with the objective of building up ecosystem of defense R&D innovation by bringing together private industries, startups, academia, incubators. And we set up an organization called Defense Innovation Organization, and Mr. Gautama is proud owner of that organization along with HAL. So this organization throws up challenges under the ITEX scheme, and those challenges are given to us by our armed forces. And today, I can say that out of 18 challenges which we had thrown in last 2 years, 44 startups are working with us. We are providing them 1.5 crore rupees of grant for developing those innovative products, prototypes. And subject to success of those prototypes, we are also giving them opportunity to manufacture those items and meet the needs of our defense forces. We took this idea forward, and in the month of September, Honorable Raksha Mantri launched one more, addition to this IDEX challenge processes. We are now we have launched another scheme which is called IDEX for Fauji. We have got 13 lakh service personnel, with Army, Navy, and Air Force. So, and they are the one who are working on the ground. They are facing day-to-day. So we are involving them in letting us know the kind of challenges that they face, and if possible, they can also say such solutions. And those challenges will be then thrown to the startups community and will get converted into products which will have definitely, meet the need of my forces. And I'm sure that innovation will help me in capturing export market as well. So this is the way forward we are looking at. We are now in the process of, encompassing all these areas, finalizing our defense production and export promotion policy 2020, which will focus on building domestic defense manufacturing capabilities, promote export of defense equipment and weapons and platforms. As you said in the beginning of your speech, that we are focusing on target 2025. We want to have production of almost $25 billion, export of $5 billion. It's a huge target. In 5 years, doubling our production capability, not an easy task. But I am confident the stage at which today we are, the way we are getting cooperation from our industries, from our DPSUs, and the support from the government, it's possible to achieve this target. Export will be one of the very important area of our focus. $5 billion. Today we export around $1.5 billion. And I should tell you that out of $1.5 billion, 80% of that export comes from private industries, and 20% comes from DPSUs. So we are giving very stiff target to our DPSUs, and we are creating a kind of ecosystem in which our Indian embassies abroad in friendly foreign countries and the defense attaches, who are there in most of these friendly foreign countries, they work with our industry, and we are trying to meet the need of our friendly foreign countries from our domestic industrial base. So, with all these initiatives, I am sure the target which Honorable Prime Minister has given to Ministry of Defense and to country as such, we are confident to achieve those.
First of all, I would like to bring a little deeper understanding of what the government is aiming at Atmanirbhar Bharat. You remember that in the year 2014, the Prime Minister initiated Make in India initiative. So at the time, for industries like Bell in manufacturing sector, the goal was the manufacturing sector must contribute 25% of the GDP. So defense was also included under the manufacturing category. Now, at the time, the country positioned itself well embedded in the global economy system. So today, all countries are within the global economy and they are interdependent. So we were not seeing India as a separate, and we have got supply chain relationship. And the main thrust at the time was to ensure that the end product is assembled, manufactured in India with a good global supply chain partnership. So even the foreign investments encouraged those days, direct in defense up to 49%, was mainly to see that they utilize the manufacturing capacity in the country and build the final product type of. But the 2020 transformed lives of everyone on this planet. The COVID-19 has touched the way in which we are living in this planet. Today, under COVID-19, the biggest thing happened is all the countries got affected and the entire supply chain is disrupted. So in Make in India initiative, for example, healthcare was there as a wellness, and the pharmaceutical industry was there for manufacturing the drugs and concentrating on export. But the focus was missing on the ingredients required for bulk drug manufacturing or supply of bulk drugs and medical equipment. So the COVID brought and showed us a vacuum in the country, in the healthcare sector, for example. So when we started having the opportunity to manufacture 30,000 ventilators, here I must thank Secretary DP, Sri Rajkumar ji. During COVID period, he called us up and told that we must take this initiative and we must jump in and do it. And it was challenging for us, but today it is utmost satisfying for all of us in Bharat Electronics. So we found that the supply chain, logistics, there was so much of disruption that you can't face the pandemic with without getting these critical spare parts. So you need to have, we should have started R&D in these sectors probably a couple of years back or decades back. So that showed the vacuum in the country. So today the Prime Minister gave call for Atmanirbhar Bharat. A special package has been released so that we upgrade all our infrastructure towards that, utilize our buying power. The largest market is available in India. Utilize that buying power to ensure that we have self-reliant in India in all the spheres. So defense is not excluded in that, and in fact defense is one of the prime focus. So even after we are shortly going to celebrate 75th year of independence, and even at this stage we still have foreign dependency on our defense needs. About 65% of our needs are met through imports only. So now this is becoming a catch-22 situation. You have legacy equipment from legacy partners, and you need to continuously upgrade them or continuously get the supplies of them, and we are in that trap. So for the first time from Make in India, much bigger goal is set by the government, And under the leadership of Secretary DP Sri Rajkumar ji, today the defense industry in India is going through a transformational change. The goal set in front of is much bigger, much larger, and much visionary. The enablers are provided to us in terms of change in the policy statements, procedures. So today, with such helping hand from the government, in fact, industry has to rise up, and it is a big opportunity available in the industry. So in terms of non-availability of technology, today we can partner with any foreign company, form a joint venture where the foreigner can very easily come with a 74% investment in that. And if required, government is considering on critical technology even more than that, even up to 100%. So first, the barriers of bringing in technology are not going to be there today. The second is the negative import list is a real game changer today. The industry has got confidence that you make a product meeting the defense standards, meeting the defense services requirement, you are assured of procurement of that product, because the government is going to add it in the negative import list, and the user has to commit procurement from us. So this is going to transform the way in which the private industry is also investing in defense. All these years, private industry was probably trying to invest only when an opportunity is given to them. But today, you have to generate opportunity for yourself. You bring a product, as Sir has explained, that indigenous content in the Buy Indian category also has been drastically increased. So if the industry comes up with a indigenous design developed product, the future of the industry is secure, because the government, the moment it is accepted, it is going to be put under negative import list. Third is, this is transformational policy change in bringing up the strategic partnership model, because there are positive strengths in some industries, and we need to leverage those positive strengths, be it public sector or be it private sector. Instead of competing, it is the time where we need to collaborate. So I am very happy when you have called Mr. Satyanarayana Naval for this program, because we both are collaborating in manufacturing electronic fuses to Indian Army. A large number of fuses in the last 2 years we have manufactured, and I must thank the support Solar Industries have extended to us. We only make electronics, and they make us the entire explosive part of it. And in fact, the entire product is finally assembled in their facility, stored in their facility, and dispatched from their facility. This sort of collaboration is required. Our strength in electronics and mass manufacturing of electronics, combined with their strength in handling any explosive material with the safety standards and required processes, if we combine this, that's what is going to result in a good product and an exportable product. So that's what the country must look forward now. The target set in front of us for next 5 years, $5 billion of export is most welcoming challenge for us. And we collaborate in the Indian industry. I can tell you, we can do wonders.
Solar, making India self-reliant in ammunition.
I finally want to bring in Mr. Satyanarayana Naval, who's been listening very patiently to all that we've been speaking over the last few minutes. I want to give him, I want him to give us a perspective of a private sector player, how he views the government of India's new policy in the light of his long years waiting for orders, what it is like to be a private sector player with very key capabilities, and what it is like now in the light of the changed realities. Over to you, Mr. Naval.
We are in the basically in the explosive, which is utilized for this mining infrastructure, coal or non-coal. So we decided, I started my career in very this thing, but somehow first I started industries in 95, this small scale industries, but somehow within 10 to 12 years, we could reach on the largest manufacturer and largest exporter in the country. So I decided, because so many things, just I will take you 2 minutes. So as a small company of us, we decided if you want to, particular on the ammunition sector, wants to break the system, you have to invest whatever required. So we invest in the defense sector. We have put up the very modern facility. First of all, we set up the high energy material, which was totally imported in the country. Our country was totally dependent on this particular HMX compound like this, PBX, so many warhead required for whatever this rockets, missiles, air bombs, mining. So we have set up the plant, and I am very happy to tell you we have set up a world largest plant in the country without taking any technology. But definitely we have scientists who are working in this Bofors in Sweden. So they resigned from there, they joined to us. And by this thing, we could set up here the largest plant of the world. And now we are exporting these products to many countries like OEM of US, Europe, Israel, Ukraine, and many countries we are exporting. And for next 2 years, we are fully booked with this particular high energy material. Recently, as regard this R&D, Rajkumarji said that so we are working in the very good R&D. I tell you, sir, recently, I think you may be aware, we have set up a life assessment engineering. This is the first time in the country, but as I heard by DGK, this is the first time in the Asia. So, by this system, this is the real life assessment engineering. But without any assurance, without any this thing, we made a huge facility, because I said facility is not actually this is the life assessment. It is the validation of the product. But it is the real life assessment, and that I said is take about just like 22 months by this IMC technology, isothermal microtechnology. By this system, we can complete within 4 or 5 months. And I tell you, sir, particular by this system, this we can get the each and every the temperature. What are the temperature? There's the 15, 30, 40, 60 temperature, particular the different humidation. We get the life of the particular ammunition. And in the long term, it will be very beneficial to at the time of designing the ammunition. Because it is in other countries, this is not a new system which is we developed. Sir, it is an established system in NATO countries about 18 to 20 years back, but we don't have this system. So I decided in countries this system should be there. Because so many this foreigners, some from this US and Sweden, particular from the Sweden, they work for this Bofors and Urenco. They resign and they join to us. So when I was discussing, and he told me that in your country there is no system, so I decided मैंने कहा there is no problem, we are ready to invest, and we set up. And now, sir, DGP is also already now. Last week they approved, they authorized us. So by last, because we have MOU in this DEF Expo with Raksha Mantri ji and Secretary Defense that time, but you know whatever system, it took the long time, but finally last week after this trial validation with DGPA, many things, and finally before 2 weeks last week they have authorized to us to for this life assessment system.
It's possibly one of the first times that the government has so actively taken up the issue of defense exports, and you've set clear targets of $5 billion over the next 5 years with very ambitious targets. What is the Defense Production Department of Defense Production doing to push Indian exports into the rest of the world? If you could give us an overview of that, sir.
The issue of export that you refer to, I should tell you now, we have identified a list of some 40, 50 potential countries, will need our export defense products by way of exports from here. We have very vibrant industry associations. One is SIDM, Society of Indian Defense Manufacturers, under the umbrella of CAI, and then we have FICCI. So these two industrial associations are very proactive. So you would be happy to know that we have put them in the front. They are now organizing webinars with the industry of foreign-friendly countries, with the military leadership of foreign-friendly countries in association with our embassies. So the role for promoting export opportunities in defense sector, we have assigned it to the industry bodies. That is what in short I can tell you. And I don't know whether I should thank COVID-19 for giving this excellent opportunity of, now mentally we are all tuned to interact across the board on this virtual media. So very successfully, our industry is interacting with the industry in friendly foreign countries, with the government and the military leadership. And our embassies, Indian embassies, are playing a fantastic role in organizing, such kind of discussion meetings. And I'm sure this is how we hope to capture opportunities in the export market in the defense field. Line of credit, by our Ministry of External Affairs, that you must be aware, So we are also using defense line of credit as an opportunity to promote our exports. We have this Defense Expo, Aero India. These two are our signature events, Ministry of Defense signature events. Annually, biannual events are there. So every alternatively, either we do DEF Expo or we do. Now we invite all these countries, those where we see export opportunities, where we see opportunities for collaboration. That is what Mr. Gautama and Naval also referred. So we want the leadership of those countries, the industry of those countries to come and visit these two events and look at what our industry is capable of, what products that our industry is manufacturing, and we can provide them to meet their requirement. Then we are also identifying major equipments, platforms, weapons. See, so far we have been focusing upon the smaller things, sub-assemblies, components. But unless we go in for major defense, for example, I can tell you about Bharat Electronics. They have a wonderful product which is called Coastal Surveillance System. Now, in the Indian Ocean region, there are a number of countries, which need that kind of support from us for their own security. And very successfully, they have provided one such product to Maldives, for instance. So we are looking at product-based opportunities, and the moment you bring in a product, then we have long-term relationship with that country. And this is what we are focusing upon.
I actually want to bring in Mr. Gautama here on this goal that you've set of defense exports, $5 billion. And you mentioned earlier on that your approach was to look at creating an ecosystem. Mr. Rajkumar says that it's also for product-based, to create products that you can export. How do you see BEL harmonizing these in terms of leveraging our expertise in defense electronics? The coastal radar system that we've exported to many countries is an example. How do you see Bell, using these to enter into defense markets of countries around the world?
Today, we are being facilitated by our defense attaches and ambassadors from various countries, where we were not knowing that there is a lead existing. So first and foremost, today there is a tremendous change. In fact, all Indian defense companies are receiving leads from the government, with the support of the government. From Bell side, what we did, in order to give more confidence to those countries, we started opening our marketing offices in their countries. So today, thanks to the government approval, DDP approval, we have already commenced operations of our marketing centers in 6 countries. We had opened it in Vietnam, Myanmar, Sri Lanka, Oman, Singapore, and USA. And we are now shortly going to open up in Abuja, Nigeria. Now, these our local presence there is transforming the mindset, which otherwise most of the countries do not have a stated published defense acquisition policy like India, where you have got a fair opportunity for competition. Whereas those countries, the policies are decided by the running government, and it is different. So our physical presence today is transforming. Recently, in one of our neighboring country, we were able to compete in a global competition and beat China in acquiring order for 4 numbers of surveillance radars and sonars. So I can tell you that as Rajkumar sir has put, 5 billion looks bigger target today, but in a couple of years we can see that it is more than achievable, and we will be able to cross it also. So we are bringing a transformational change in the mindset of those countries, that India is strongly today poised for defense export, and India is going to be a defense supply chain partner for those countries. And here we need to have, once we are trying to export something, we have a lot of export restrictions coming in by way of ITAR and such type of laws. And hence, the ecosystem is most important for us to create in the country first, to become a strong, reliable export partner. So that's where the platform like IDEX, Bell has got our own internal investment in R&D, apart from DRDO. We spend about 10% of our revenues back into R&D. Today, we have collaborative R&D partners, nearly 250 collaborative partners. We have about 125 projects with a budget outlay of 100 crores running at this point of time. And all these are oriented towards building a ecosystem, which otherwise we were dependent on foreign imports. And those people can put a restriction for us that end use is in so-and-so country, then you are not allowed to export. So we have to come out of those restrictions to establish ourselves very strongly as a defense export hub for the neighboring countries. Yes, we have, as Sir has told, our coastal surveillance system is well proven. Thanks to Indian Coast Guard, we have matured it enough, and today we are able to get in orders from neighboring Indian Ocean region countries in a very big way for that.
Thank you, Mr. Gautama. And I want to address my next question to Mr. Naval. Naval ji, ये आपको एक डिफेंस एंटरप्रेन्योर के तौर पे आप हमें बता सकते हैं ये कौन से गुणों की जरूरत पड़ती है एक डिफेंस एंटरप्रेन्योर को इंडियन डिफेंस इकोसिस्टम में, अगर आपको तरक्की करनी हो तो आपकी क्या राय है इस बारे में?
सर, we started this industries last 10 year back, and last up to 8 year we are losing every year 40 to 45 crore cash loss. So ये मेरा बोलने का उसके पीछे ये था कि it's required, particular for the defense, is required the patience and perseverance. जब तक ये मतलब whatever government policies make, but trial, validation, these things, it is मतलब not like other products. So जब तक किसी एंटरप्रेन्योर में वो पेशेंस या पेशन नहीं है, then it will be very difficult. 5 बिलियन का जो गवर्नमेंट का है, डेफिनेटली नो डाउट, एंड इट इज वेरी मतलब दैट प्राउड फॉर अस, बट मेरी एक हम्बल सजेशन ये है कि जो भी व्हाटएवर सर आपने जो ये डीएपी या डीपीएम है, तो वो टाइमलाइन जो है यदि वो कम से कम ठीक से उस पे हो जाए, क्योंकि सर आई हैव एक्सपीरियंस पर्टिकुलर फॉर द सो मेनी प्रोडक्ट, बट विच वी टेक द ओनली द पिनाका this RFP was the 2 or 3 years back. Again it is become मतलब scrap हो गई. Now it is already DAC is clear, but after the even clear by the DOC, it's take the years and years. So ये इसमें किसी का फायदा नहीं है. जो भी सिस्टम है उसमें I do not want to blame the this system, बट प्रोसीजर ऐसे हो कि जिसमें विदाउट कंप्रोमाइज ऑफ द क्वालिटी, विदाउट कंप्रोमाइज ऑफ द कॉस्ट, विदाउट कंप्रोमाइज ऑफ द कमिटमेंट, बट विद इन टाइम इट शुड बी कंप्लीट. मुझे लगता है कि ये जो पॉलिसीज, नो डाउट इतनी अच्छी पॉलिसीज इसके पहले बहुत अच्छी, सबसे अच्छी पॉलिसी बनी है. पहले भी कुछ अच्छी पॉलिसीज थी, बट इम्प्लीमेंटेशन इसको कैसे मॉनिटरिंग हो सकता है, ये देश के हित में ये करना चाहिए. मेरी बस एक रिक्वेस्ट है, क्योंकि हर आदमी हमारी तरह 10 साल तक वेट करके हर साल 40-50 करोड़ रुपया केस लॉस करके और वो इंडस्ट्रीज नहीं लगा सकता. तो हमने लेकिन कोशिश की कि इस एम्यूनेशन जो प्राइवेट सेक्टर में it was not imagined in any company, even government is not think कि भाई complete ammunition प्राइवेट सेक्टर में आ सकता है. बट we decided कि भाई क्योंकि हमारे पास कुछ नहीं था और भगवान ने जब हमको इतना दिया तो हमने कहा कि चैरिटी करने के बजाय जो भी हमने है, उस समय सर हमने 600 करोड़ रुपया डाला. पूरी फैसिलिटी वी हैव सेट अप द फैसिलिटी इन 2000 एकड़. सो उतनी फैसिलिटी और सब कुछ करने के बाद में इट टुक द 10 ईयर. अभी भी कोई ऑर्डर नहीं मिला है. अब जो कॉन्ट्रैक्ट साइन हुआ है, मुझे लगता है वो दिसंबर या जनवरी से शुरू हो जाएगा. तो हर चीज पॉसिबल है, लेकिन इसमें जो भी एक पेशेंस जब तक नहीं हो, पेशेंस नहीं हो, तो इसमें ये रखना पड़ेगा और ये उनको बताना पड़ेगा कि ये ऐसा नहीं है. लेकिन अभी गवर्नमेंट का यदि सपोर्ट, जो पॉलिसी है, सपोर्ट है, और ये टाइमलाइन यदि ठीक से मीट हो जाए, तो मुझे लगता है कि इसमें कोई दो राय नहीं कि हमारा जो भी टारगेट है इसको हम अचीव कर सकते हैं.
धन्यवाद नवाल जी, आपने बहुत अच्छी बात कही कि पेशेंस, परसिवियरेंस और पैशन की जरूरत है इस डिफेंस फील्ड में. और उम्मीद है कि गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया की जो नई PI है पॉलिसी, उससे ये सारी चीजें सॉल्व हो सकती हैं और देश आत्मनिर्भरता की तरफ बढ़ सकती है. और on this note, I want to thank all our speakers for sparing your valuable time. You're all very, very busy individuals, and thank you very much for coming here and speaking. We now have a special message from Mr. Ajay Harinath Singh, Chairman and Managing Director, Darwin Platform Group of Companies.
Atmanirbhar Bharat. Salute to the Indian Army, Navy, Air Force, and all the agencies of India. It's an honor to be a part of the nation which is developing their own helicopters and fighter jets like Tejas and tanks within the country. The government of India is right now doing a planning of Atmanirbhar Bharat, which is substantial, known to be one of the best movement done by any other Prime Minister until now. Shri Narendra Modi ji has done fantastically good. Our organization, Darwin Platform Electronics INC, is doing too good in the same division of defense. We have been parting hand in hand and making manufacturing things in India, within India. Borders divide, but unanimously people should understand that borders are also created by us. Defense is the backbone of government, and government stand on defense. So if our defense system is powerful, robust, we are safe. Darwin Platform Electronics INC is in hand in glove with the Government of India, Ministry of Defense, under controlled by Shri the Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi ji. We will be manufacturing every single thing in India. All technologies will be done in India. Every single thing will be with the permissions of DRDO Chief G. Satish ji, and every single thing will be licensed. I'm very happy to say that the Darwin Platform Electronics INC will not only give its best deliverables to the Indian government, but also to the international market on a legal platform wherever the Indian government gives us permission to do it. Proud to be a Darwinite. The movement of defense headed by Shri Rajnath Singh, our top leader Shri Narendra Modi ji, the Honorable Prime Minister of India, DRDO Chief G. Satish ji, and CDS Chief Sir Bipin Rawat, is actually one of the finest movement ever done by any other country till date. What I see that India will develop every single equipment of defense within the premises and the borders of India in the coming decade. People think that India is actually developing. No, it's developed. You should understand that Atmanirbhar Bharat is making India more powerful than your imagination. We, with the people of India, within the country, by the country and for the country, will do anything to make this mission successful, which has been implemented by our Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi.
Our next session, Future Ready, Investing in Future Defense Technologies. The only constant, they say, is change, and no field is changing as fast as the defense sector, where newer technologies like hypersonic weapons, artificial intelligence, and drones promise to change the face of warfare. What are the cutting-edge technologies that India should be looking at to protect itself from this new arms race? Joining me in my next panel discussion are Dr. G. Satish Reddy, Chairman DRDO, Secretary Department of Defense Research and Development, Mr. Baba Kalyani, Chairman and Managing Director, Bharat Forge Limited, and Lieutenant General P. Ravishankar, former Director General Artillery and presently Professor, Department of Aerospace at IIT Madras. Hello and welcome to the India Today Defense Conclave, where we debate the issues facing India as it embarks on its twin path of modernization and indigenization. Without much ado, I want to invite Dr. Satish Reddy to speak about the technologies that India should be investing in for the future to ensure that we stay ahead of the curve. Dr. Satish Reddy, over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Sanjay Punitan, for giving this opportunity to give some of my views and ideas, and also to share this platform with Baba Kalyani ji and General Shankar, with whom we have worked and we have been working with them also. See, today, when you look at generally, India has been a technology follower. I always say this. We have been seeing that elsewhere in the world, some technologies are developed and some product comes out and some equipment comes out, and then you also come to know about it and you start working on that, you develop the technology and then you develop the product and then, yes, you say that we also have developed what has been generally the trend till now. So I keep saying that from technology follower, you have to become a technology leader. It's one of the important things. So you need to identify many technologies which are emerging today and which you have to work on them and make sure that you are able to develop those technologies. To do that, what is your actually core strength and where you have already got developed many strengths is one thing. You need to look at yourself and then also look for those technologies which are coming. So firstly, when you look at the technologies today, I think the Indian defense whole ecosystem has come up very well in developing many of the missile systems, many of the radar systems, many of the electronic warfare systems, many of the torpedoes, many of the AVAC systems. And today we are talking about sonars, we are also talking about guns, and we are also talking about combat vehicles and communication systems and all that. These are some of the things which you have actually developed. And now also you have entered into the area of the spectrum of developing the fighter aircraft and also some submarines, shipbuilding, and other related activities. But when you look at the trends that are coming up in the today, when you look at one is very important thing is in the missiles domain, you're talking about hypersonic missiles, you're talking about hypersonic glide vehicles and all that is one of the very important areas which are coming up. When we are talking about the radars, you're talking about very long range radars, you're talking about over the horizon radars and skywave radars and things like that. It's another area where it is coming and talking about radars like photonics radars with gallium nitride technology and various phased array radars and all that is one of the very important areas. Similarly, you're talking about very high electromagnetic pulse, electromagnetic energy, talking about laser powers, laser energy, you're talking about terahertz technologies, talking about materials which are very lightweight and which are high temperature, high strength materials. Is another area which is very, very important for anything which you have to look into it. Then you are talking about high energy propellants, high energy materials, where actually when you talk about range, for a given fixed range, for a given fixed payload, what is the weight you can have? What is the minimum weight what you can have compared to any world standard is one of the parameters what you need to look at. And similarly, on the other side, when you talk about, you're talking about lightweight, most modern, new generation tanks we are talking about, guns are automatic. Yes, the country has achieved the world's longest range gun, which Bharat Forge is a partner to that. And we, Bharat Forge and Tatas have together worked on it and developed it. But then there are lightweight guns and with much better ammunition, guided shells. Talking about in the aircrafts, you need to definitely look at aircrafts like 50th generation plus aircraft, which are stealth aircraft like AMCA, is one of the technologies which we need to develop. Then, most importantly, today we are talking about cyber side. Cyber security is one of the important things. Cyber and space are the fourth and fifth dimensions of warfare. Cyber, we need to develop a lot of skill set in the country, lots of youngsters, we need to attract them, and a lot of startups need to come up in that area. Firstly, talking about cyber defense, and if required, cyber offensive. So these are all some of the areas where we need to concentrate in the advanced technologies areas. And all of us working together, particularly the academia working on basic research to applied research, the laboratories like us working on applied research to translational research, and the industry taking from translational research to the product and producing them with a sustained quality, and also having a research in the niche area. In fact, what we are looking for is the industry should be able to develop many of the things with the technologies base which has been developed in the country as a BTS items, build to specification items. Then the laboratories can concentrate more and more on advanced research and come out with new and newer products and newer technologies is one thing. So this is the way, actually, if you can work on that and work on these technologies, you are not lagging behind the advanced nations and which are coming out with advanced and futuristic products. You also will be able to come out with those products in the similar timelines. We have done this in some of the areas. We are one of the fourth nation, one of the fifth nation, one of the sixth nation in development of many of the advanced technologies. Yes, that domain has to expand a lot. Second thing is we need to see that our indigenous content, which is roughly about around close to 50% is the indigenous content in the armed forces, that has to go to a much higher value, more than 80 to 90% of the value. For that, whatever technologies which we are lagging, the gap is there. Those technologies have to be focused and also to be developed in the country so that we don't import, whereas we become exporter of this technology. That is what we need to work together, all the three elements in the ecosystem of defense.
Right. Thank you very much, Dr. Reddy. I'm going to bring in Mr. Baba Kalyani, who's been listening to what you just said. Mr. Kalyani is, as I said earlier, has made some very interesting investments in the defense space, particularly in the areas of artillery guns and in land systems. Over a decade ago, when people were not even willing to invest any money in the defense sector. So, Mr. Kalyani, could you tell us how you see, what Dr. Reddy mentioned, the fact that we need to invest in all these emerging technologies. As someone from the private sector, how do you approach this? I mean, what are the kind of areas that you see this civil-military fusion that we were talking of earlier happening?
I honestly think there is a new direction that DRDO has got now. And the policies of the government, the Honorable Prime Minister, this whole concept of Atmanirbhar Bharat is playing out very, very well. When we have institutions like the DRDO developing all these advanced technologies, you also need, as you said, translation of these technologies and research into production. Now, that's where we come in as industry, to translate technologies and research into production. And not just production in terms of make it to print, but also add some value and add some knowledge and keep innovating and keep making it better and better, so that the intellectual property resides with us and we become a nation that can export high-end products in the defense and aerospace field. Dr. Reddy mentioned about ATAX. We are one of the partners involved in building this gun. And, we have in this gun, it's 100% indigenous. Even the electronics we have developed locally using partners within the industry area, some people from MSME sector, some technocrats. So it's amazing in terms of what capability exists in this country. What I see happening in India, if you were to put the clock forward by another 5-6 years, is all these technologies that are being developed for defense and aerospace will have tremendous spin-offs in other sectors. A lot of these technologies are dual-use technologies. They also get used in the civilian sector, whether it's automotive, whether it's industrial sector, whether it's the machinery sector. They will all get used in this sector. And India's technology base and capability will dramatically expand. I mean, it'll expand, in my opinion, in the next 7 to 10 years. It will expand 10x with this approach that we are taken now. Some of the products that he mentioned, in terms of, let's say, jet engines required for futuristic fighter aircrafts. I mean, today, I think that's one technology that this country has not mastered yet, and it needs to get mastered because it's an important technology. If you look at the statement that China made just a few days ago, I'm sure you have also seen that somewhere. It has, last Thursday, matter of fact, it has vowed to build the fully modern army by 2027 and move towards technology self-sufficiency and meet all its development goals. And this, if you read with the backdrop of Made in China 2025, where they have listed all the technology verticals that they want to master, they have a goal. And I think we need to set similar goals. If India has to stay relevant in the emerging new world order, we need to have, just like what our armed forces are doing on the borders today and showing their capability, we need every citizen in this country, every organization in this country needs to get up and create the force that is capable of multiplying itself using the technology that is developed within the country. And I think we have immense capabilities here.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kalyani. Thanks for those thoughts. And I want to bring in, without any delay, I want to bring General Ravi Shankar in to give us the user's perspective on just what you've heard. You've heard the designer, you've heard the manufacturer. Now, could you give us a user's perspective of how you see the battlefield of the future? What is the future battlefield going to look like? What do the Indian Armed Forces have to be ready for?
What I'll do is, whatever they've said, I'll put it in the operational context. What's happening and what's to happen ahead. So I'll put it in the form of a slide show. You'll have to bear with me. At the outset, let me say, are we future ready? Not as it. Are we investing in future defense technology? Yes. At the same time, I might also like to say that the fact that we've been able to hold China on a leash in the eastern Ladakh with the technologies which we have, which are not less, speaks volumes of what our base is. And we need to go ahead. That's a given. But then what is the scenario in which we're going to go ahead? That is the issue which we have to look at. Today is a area or the era of the multi-domain warfare. That's happening today, right? Old domains of air, land, and sea are there. But like what Dr. Reddy spoke, space, cyberspace, nuclear, electromagnetic spectrum, energy and resources, of course, politics, ideology, economy, these are all kicked in. Public opinion, legal and influence operations. All these are technology driven heavily. And this war is going to be happening in peace and no peace conditions, day and night, by multiple actors, non-state actors, and what have you. The last generation, we spoke of revolution in military affairs during the Gulf Wars. But today, a whole lot of disruptive technologies which have already been spoken have come up. That's what is in the center in the blue, right? And what we're looking at ahead is something called disruption in military affairs. Military affairs are being disrupted as never before. Never in my life have I seen how things are changing. Okay, so what if? Let's see, how do you correlate these disruptive technologies with lessons from Ladakh? When I thought over it, I felt, look, in Ladakh, we needed battlefield transparency. So what does it transfer into technology? You look at space, you look at GIS, you look at manned, unmanned system, you need to look at night vision sensors and so on. You need reach, range. Dr. Reddy did speak about it. That means you need new propulsion technologies, you need manned and unmanned systems, control and guidance technologies of the latest variety. Precision, very important. As you reach farther, you need precision. That's how cost advantage kicks in. But then there's a technology requirement of terminal guidance, you need seekers, AI. AI is going to be all pervasive in most of the systems tomorrow. You need space, again, it reappears. So many of these technologies start reappearing. You need technologies for designation and acquisition. Networks, very important. Today, we have already entered the era of networks. Already some of our fire control systems are networked. Then are you looking at communications? Do you want 5G or you want to stick to 4G? Something like, why do you want to have something futuristic when something, what is there today can work well? Fiber optics, cyber tech, AI again, energy. Energy is something which I think we have to look at very seriously. Battlefield requirement of energy is going to be huge in tomorrow's domains of warfare, any warfare. You very seriously have to look at renewables, fuel cell technologies. Energy requirements are both for ground systems and for living, even there. Then, what about mobility? In terms of lightweight materials, the infrastructure which you need on our border areas, you're going to have different technology altogether. You can't divest yourself away from that kind of technology for infrastructure in the border areas. Permafrost technologies, quick setters. I mean, the works are these are all indicators, but I think we need to do quite a bit. It's not that as if we are not doing it, but are we doing it in a focused manner? That's the issue. We need to focus. It's not as if the technology is not there, right? Then survivability. We need individual production, collective production, medical technologies. Very huge. How are you going to get these medical technologies up at 16 to 17,000 feet? We can never forget that most of our battlefields tomorrow are going to be in the Himalayan region. There's no choice but to fight at 16 to 20,000 feet, whether it's in the north or in the east. And then, of course, weapon protection. Weapons have to survive in these conditions. So this is, all these issues make, I've just converted all those disruptive technologies into fields where they are applicable. Okay. Now what? How do you apply it to the ground? You have the Air Force, Navy, and the Army. I've split it with their systems already, right? They're there. The weapon systems are there. You can't throw them away. You're going to upgrade them. You're going to make them, energize them, or get to new systems. That's a trade-off, whether you want to upgrade or hold on to the new systems. Now, sorry. Yeah. Now, all these systems, all the technologies which I've spoken of have come up. Now, if you want to increase, say, the range of artillery, you have to look at propulsion technology. Once you have propulsion, you need navigation technology, you need sensors. Then you need sensors, you need precision. Once you have all this, then you have to start looking at ISR technology, network, cyber, AI. And if you've done all this and put together for one system in the artillery, you'll have to replicate it for the Navy and the Air Force. This is just for one system. Then you look at so many other systems. So it's a many-to-many environment in which we have to work. So you need to rethink the whole story. Okay, how do you do that? Right? I think the time has come to put the services as the pivot of procurement. Right? Like what Dr. Satish Reddy said, he said, look, academia, DRDO, industry have to work together on a triangular system. The MOD has to support the whole story. They cannot be out of it. Right? But the services have to drive it, because it is they and they alone who will be able to tell us how to do it. And unless services own this whole story, nothing is going to move forward. Okay. But then there is something called the civil-military fusion. China has gone into civil-military fusion in a big way in the past, say, about a decade or two. But much before that, in the last century, it was USA who started this whole story of civil-military fusion. When you look at civil-military fusion, you have to, widen the whole story. You have to get into ISRO, you got to go to DAE, you go to MATI, you have to get the industry, you have to get to CSIR labs, everyone. And I think we need to start talking as a nation a different story. We can't hear, when you're looking at these emerging technologies and the disruptive technologies, we have to think in a different dimension altogether.
Solar, making India self-reliant in ammunition.
I want to ask Dr. Reddy the first question based on what he had spoken, and of course based on what General Ravi Shankar just presented. What are the technologies that you think that are going to be really critical in the years ahead, given our security scenario and given the fact that, as you mentioned yourself, that there are many technologies that the DRDO would have to partner with the industry to go forward, that there were technologies that you had identified where the DRDO would not look at, it would leave it entirely to the private sector. What is this new philosophy that you've brought into the DRDO in the last couple of months, given the larger aim of Atmanirbhar Bharat, and of course this, the fact that we have to prepare for these new technologies that General Ravi Shankar mentioned?
DRDO, we have come out with many things we are actually working on today. Firstly, industry, we have brought them as DCPP, Development Cum Production Partner. That means if I am taking up a project, any, let's say, radar development or a torpedo development or a missile development, day one, the industry joins as a partner. And we'll be working together, and industry is part and parcel of it, and industry works with us in the development. Automatically, the knowledge is passed on and shared. And the first development model which we'll be testing will be coming from the industry. This is one important thing which we have worked with the services. The new defense acquisition policy, we have brought down the time scales, the time what is required for the trials drastically, at least by about 4 times or 5 times. They said there will be one trial, which is actually a unified trial of development and user trial, because the production agency is there already involved and they're going to do that. This is one of the important things, and there is, as General Shankar mentioned, which is an integrated effort what is required. DPMTs will be the joint management teams with our services, DRDO, industry, and the quality assurance agencies together will be participating in these things and taking the decisions on this part. In fact, if we work together, there is nothing. The speed at which this country can do is enormous. Number two, we have made our test facilities completely open to the industry today. And third, technology transfers, we have made it very, very, very simple. We are also actually made our patents open to the industry. Complete patents were made. We have also created a technology development fund for all the imported parts which are coming today. If some industry is able to indigenize, we are funding them more than 90% of the cost of that is completely from here. So this is what we have brought working with industry. Similarly, with academia, we have already opened centers of excellence. IIT Chennai is one, IIT Delhi is one. We are working on the most advanced technologies, what I have mentioned some time back. We are working with the academia. We are today working with about 295 academic institutes, spending about roughly 1,000 crores with the academia. Recently, Raksha Mantri has promulgated our defense DRDO's procurement manual. Lots of things facilitating industry we have brought in there, which industry will be able to use it. Like we had some 10% deposit, which the industry has to put in right in the beginning. We have removed that now. Similarly, when we give a material as a free issue of material to them to manufacture certain things, used to have a bank guarantee. We have removed that. We are actually going through a insurance. Actually, DRDO will pay, not the industry. So likewise, lots of things have been made. You asked me there actually what are the major technology focus things. If you talk about for any nation, particularly looking at the defense and all that, two most important things are very, very, very important. The country should be actually self-sufficient in the materials. Materials, you should be self-sufficient, not be actually strategically dependent on somebody and then somebody stops and you are off. One thing what the country has. Second is the advanced manufacturing technology should be available in the country. Without advanced innovative manufacturing capabilities in the country, you will never be able to compete with the world.
And I want to bring in Mr. Kulkarni in, because what you mentioned actually has a lot of implications when you spoke about manufacturing, for instance, and the fact that we need to actually make the machines that make these cutting-edge technologies, and the fact that we need to be self-sufficient in them. Mr. Kulkarni, as someone who took this leap of faith many years back, 10 years back, without any orders, you went out of your way and you invested in a gun line, in land systems without any orders. How does this new defense policy, the new Atmanirbhar slogan and the policy that has been put out by the government, what is your reaction to it as an industrialist? And secondly, what are the kind of investments that you are prepared to make now in the years ahead based on what Dr. Reddy just spoke?
First of all, I think as far as the government policy is concerned, defense and aerospace was the first area where we got a defined policy in terms of what will be procured indigenously. So we had, a few months ago, this list of 101 items that came out, artillery being one of them, which said from next year there will be no imports of this product. And then DRDO came out with a list of 108 subsystems where industry was encouraged to make all this because these also would not be imported. I think this is the kind of policy that you really need because it creates clarity, it creates your direction, and then as an entrepreneur, as a business, you're ready to invest. Of course, we made the investment much before because we were passionate about it, and we felt that just like what we did in our normal forging business in 1991, we made huge investments to convert a very high level of, from simple technology to a very high level of technology using brain power rather than muscle power. And we betted on the world to create ourselves demand from the world market. Similarly, artillery is one product where with the technology that DRDO and its research centers have and the kind of manufacturing skills that people like us have, in our artillery plant, the entire system is made digitally. Okay, it's a paperless system. Everything is on screens. You have a PLM system that can trace every nut, bolt, item through from where it has come. So it's an amazing system which helps you get high quality and reduce costs at the same time. And I think today Indian manufacturing has this capability to do this. We did a similar thing with DRDO with their lab in Pune, ARD, to create this kinetic energy ammunition for the Arjun tank. And in the first shot, it was fired in Balasore, and it was absolutely okay. And we are hoping that we can work and do something even better. We got a penetration of some 515 odd millimeters. I think probably Dr. Reddy's target is to cross 600 millimeters in this area. But it's amazing what you can do when you work together. I'm very, very confident that India will see a tremendous resurgence coming out of technology and the innovations that come out of technology. And a lot of this is going to come from defense and aerospace. Not all of it, but a lot of it is going to come from defense and aerospace.
I want to bring in General Ravi Shankar here at this point. Based on what you spoke about the technologies that we need to be looking at, the Indian Army, to me, it strikes me as a very interesting organization in the sense that it lives in many centuries at the same time. You have mules, you have bayonets, you have tanks, howitzers, and drones and future systems. How do you reconcile all of these with, given the speed of procurements and the fact that you have limited budgets? As an army, as a former army man, how do you see this happening? Would you, for instance, the army is one of the largest buyers of bayonets and indeed mules and tanks. So how do you bring this new element of hypersonic weapons or just unmanned aerial systems? Would you reduce the number of tanks and guns and go in for these cutting edge systems? How does one change mindsets?
Right, that's a very interesting question, and I'll answer it in different manners. The first thing is the terrain at which we work. Many of these technologies don't work there. There's technology has gone ahead, but it doesn't work there. It's simple. That's the fundamental. And it's just not our lack of technology or inability to take the technology to these heights and conditions which matter. It's the same the other side. In fact, today, if you ask me, China is worse off, technology-wise, in Eastern Ladakh, and it's telling on them. Right. Now, having said this, where does technology come in these areas? Technology comes in, like when you have extended reach, when you have precision, you have good communication and everything, you are able to deter the enemy. So technology comes in to deter the enemy, to hold him off at that farther level. So this is the dichotomy, the terrain versus the thing. And that is why you will still, for the next half century or more, we have to live with nukes, we have to live with hypersonic systems, or rather aspire for hypersonic systems, and find our balance in between somewhere. So that is something which we have to do. The next thing, which is very interesting and which is happening all over, are these disruptive technologies. AI, robotics, cyber, AR, VR, new materials, space, GIS. Now, these are getting integrated with the normal armed forces. Okay. For example, yesterday I got an input from Eastern Ladakh about the state of equipment out there. It's enabled through space after all, right? 5G or I mean, not 5G, 4G or whatever. So it's going to come in. But the more interesting part is these technologies, a year back, this issue we spoke in a seminar where about 2,000 army officers were attending, that seminar. They said, how do you ingest these technologies into the armed forces? Which is the way? And the unanimous answer of all these 2,000 people was, it has to be through startups. So we need a very robust startup, kind of ecosystem. And that is something which I'm not yet seeing in India. Just to give you an idea, the AI programs for the US Army, the entire program is being run out of Carnegie Mellon University, right? Entire, and they've funded about $3.5 billion for it there. The reason is simple. These technologies are being executed and made by young minds. People like us are old, right? And you have to go to them and get this technology from the grassroots level. If you don't do it, someone else will take it. Again, I'll give you an example. I had a student of mine who had incorporated AI into a small drone, which did some recognition, which did counting and everything. Personally, I thought it was a fantastic piece of innovation. So I took it to the Army Design Bureau. I took it to NDMA. I took it to a number of people, right? And everyone pointed a finger at the other guy because, the realization and the potential of this is not there. So finally, I said, okay, but someone did help me out, and we started realizing things. Till one day, this boy, he just put one slide and sent it to Microsoft. 1 week later, Microsoft sends him a ticket to come to Seattle, all expenses paid. He goes and presents this in Seattle, right? And then Microsoft says, tell me, what do you want? Come and do this, develop this into a system here. That's the approach. That's the difference in approach. That's what I was saying. Unless we break our own mindsets, unless we break our own structures, unless we place faith in technology, we'll go nowhere. Why do you think what Dr. Reddy said, within 1 year we could come out with a guided Pinaka? Faith. You know what he told me? He said, look, General Shankar, you lead this project. Take it where you want. Everyone is with you. That's it. Every month I was in Hyderabad listening to a young set of people talking of things which I couldn't understand. But I was there with them and they made it happen. Okay. This is the involvement which we need from the entire ecosystem. If that happens, nothing can stop India. It can happen. We just have to take responsibility. If your structures or thinking changes, the world is our oyster.
The world is our oyster. And what an excellent note to end this fascinating discussion. I want to thank you all for your time. Thank you all for being here. I know you have extremely busy schedules. Thank you for taking your time out. Our next session talks about India's possible leap from being a builder of warships to an exporter of warships. One of the key achievements made by the indigenous defense industry has been the transformation of India from a country that imported warships into one that makes most of its warships. We now look at whether Indian shipbuilding can make that leap from a builder's navy to an exporter's navy. Joining me in this panel discussion are Rear Admiral V.K. Saxena, Chairman and Managing Director, Garden Reach Shipbuilders and Engineers Limited; Shri Jayant Patil, Whole-Time Director, Defence and Smart Technologies, Larsen & Toubro; and Mr. Fernando Formoso Freire, Director, India Business Development and Commercial Division, Navantia. One of the government's key focus areas in its Atmanirbhar drive in the defense sector has been on defense exports. The Defense Ministry has announced a target of $5 billion in defense exports over the next 5 years. Now, this is born out of a realization that orders from the Indian Armed Forces alone may not suffice to maintain a large defense industrial base. One of the areas where the prospects of defense exports brightens is in the design and construction of warships, where India has achieved a very high degree of self-sufficiency. I want to bring in my first speaker for the day, Admiral Saxena. Admiral Saxena, GRSE has been in the news lately for delivering the fourth and the last Kamorta-class anti-submarine warfare corvette to the Indian Navy. This corvette features a very high degree of indigenous content. Could you tell us how this makes you competitive in the global shipbuilding arena, and give us an overview of the Indian shipbuilding, specifically in the construction of warships?
I'm heading the Garden Reach Shipbuilders, which is one of the premier defense shipyard in our country. We were the first shipyard to have produced the first warship, indigenous warship for the Indian Navy way back in 1961, Sanjay, which was a seabird defense boat. And since then, we have been making the ships. Variety of ships have been made for the Indian Navy and Indian Coast Guard, starting from frigates to the missile corvettes to ASW corvettes. The only fleet tanker Aditya has been made by the GRSE, the survey vessels, and amphibious warships like LCUs, LSTs, and likewise. And I'm happy to inform this forum is that we have reached to a figure of 105. Century landmark has been achieved by the GRSE, and we are the only shipyard in the country to have achieved 100 plus warships construction and delivery to our maritime forces, which also includes one export warship. In fact, we were the first one to export a warship that was a Barracuda, an offshore patrol vessel, in 2014 to Mauritian Coast Guard. So the journey of export has begun way back in 2014. So that is the kind of thing that has been achieved by the shipyard. And as you highlighted that the best part is that we have now completed successfully a program which was, I would say, a very prestigious one, ASW Corvette program. We were given a project of constructing 4 warships for the Indian Navy, and the last one, of course, got delivered and commissioned on 22nd of October recently. And I must say that it just gives me again very huge amount of satisfaction that in true sense indigenization on a weapon-intensive platform like ASW corvettes, we have achieved 90+% indigenization. And certainly, this particular project was given a lot of focus and impetus by all the stakeholders, by the Indian Navy, where the design is indigenous. We started with the warship grade steel development from this project, the DMR 249 Alpha, which is being used, which was first time used on these ASW platforms. And of course, thereafter, all the warships which are being constructed in India are using this DMR 249 Alpha grade steel. So, various kind of weapon and sensors. When I say the weapon intensive platform, the weapon sensors, if you talk about the weapons, the torpedo tubes, the rocket launchers, they have been designed and developed by the L&T specifically for this particular project first, and thereafter now most of the projects of the Indian Navy are using only indigenous rocket launchers and the torpedo tubes. We'll talk about the guns, SRGM, that is MR gun, produced by the BHL Haridwar. We talk about the close-in weapon guns that is produced by the OFB AK-630 as well as the chaff launcher. come to the sensors, the surveillance radar, Revati, the EW sensors, the fire control system, links U2, and combat management system, and plethora of indigenous weapons, sensors, and equipment. I think it is a great mix of both private and public sectors to produce this kind of a platform, weapon platform. And with this today, I would say that India can happily say that yes, we have reached to a great Atmanirbhar kind of a level. We have not only stopped with the ASW corporate program, but LCUs, which are out, actually having 8 ships construction program, and there also we have crossed 90% plus indigenous content. Now, what is important for us to note here is that this all has been a great efforts by all the stakeholders. I would not say that is only by the GRSC, also by Indian Navy and many other manufacturers in our country like L&T, like Bell, like BHEL, OFB, and so on, so many other manufacturers and the firms that have done a great job to ensure and support us to produce so many number of equipment, weapon, and sensors. And today the Navy can say that Atmanirbhar Navy, where we have got so many platforms, more than 80+% of the platforms are indigenous make. So what we talk about truly that we have become a builder's Navy. And with this complex platform getting built with the majority of the indigenous components, I think we are having a good case to move forward and go for the export of the warships. And I must say that you just highlighted the government policies, the government thrust and impetus that is being given as of today. It really gives me a great amount of confidence that yes, even the government is helping, supporting us. The policies of the government with regard to the having 101 items put into the export, which were imported earlier, have been put in negative list. That is, of course, aimed at supporting the indigenous industry to manufacture, do R&D, and produce the best of the technological equipment within the country. With that, the volume will get created, the capacities will get created, the development of more and more better designs will get done in this country. And with that volume getting done in this country, not only is going to meet the requirement of our own forces, but we can move out and start exporting those kind of equipment and the platforms. So that is what, and also in addition to that, you all know that the another policy has come in that less than 200 crores, everything has to be manufactured within India. Beyond 200 crores, only worth of the equipment and items will have to be sent across for global tendering. And if I see that in 2016-17, we simply had only 131 odd million US dollars worth of the defense export, which has certainly gone up to 1.5 billion in 18-19. And the target by the government of India has set as a 5 billion. So now the 5 billion is not a, I would say, a tall order. It is all possible, but it is going to be achieved by the platform. If you export the platforms, and platform probably would be either we look at the warships, not simple warships or not small boats, etc., but we have to go for the high-end warships for the export. And I think that we have the desired now the capabilities. Certainly, I would not say that we have reached to a level of that maturity that 100% indigenous equipment, etc., are completely done up here. But now, having the design capability getting built, we have got the best of the shipyards, like defense public sector shipyard, L&T, etc., with us, and the capabilities are world class, and the equipment to a large extent are also getting intensely made. And I hope that in the coming decade or so, in coming years, we will certainly develop more and more capabilities in our country to produce state-of-the-art weapon and sensors.
Thank you for that fascinating overview of the story of indigenous warship building in India, Admiral Saxena. And I want to bring in my next speaker here, Mr. Jayant Patil, who heads the defense business of one of India's largest private sector conglomerates. Mr. Patil, could you give us your perspective on how you see India making this transition from being a builder's navy to an exporter's navy?
Thank you, Sandeep. And let me make the picture complete. After hearing Admiral Saxena, I felt there's one or two additions. What Admiral actually sort of glossed over. I won't say missed out, but glossed over. I think one fundamental point which started with Indian Navy was the need to actually to be a builder's navy, and with that, of course, he talked about the design. So the platform design as a whole started happening in the country, but a platform by alone, all of us in shipbuilding know, would constitute less than 25% value. Where does the rest come out of? So that was the second aspect. What the Navy clearly decided as a part of a grand vision, that we will force, even if there's a foreign OEM, initially it's fine that I may want to import from him, but I will tell him, first ship I will import from you, but the rest of the class actually will have to be produced in the country. And I think that is an aspect which started making a huge difference. Some of our earlier ships actually had the entire weapon and sensor suite from one origin. And we realized that that's not something which is working for us. And then we wanted to do pick and choose what is the best available in the world. And I think that's one area where Indian Navy did amazingly well. Now, when you bring in the east, west, and all kind of equipment, you need an enormously good capability to integrate. And I think that's essentially the VESI came in. I think the design, the VESI, the control in terms of specifications, and of course the quality control, and then building an entire ecosystem. The strength of Indian Navy today, in terms of if we were to look at, is this ecosystem. Clearly, you can see three tiers of industry in it. There's somebody who can completely build warships, someone like us in terms of Larsen Toubro, who just about in a decade, we started our first orders have been in 2010, but till date, we actually are knocking at delivering the 61st vessel. So that's one aspect, and we had to some extent an advantage that we were building each of those equipment. Must say that over the years, in terms of weapon systems, in terms of engineering equipment, in terms of logistic systems that go on ships, in terms of varieties of life support systems that get fitted on, and most of these actually have been fitted all along last 25, 30 years. My relationship with GRAC and Mazgaon Dock actually go back little more than 3 decades. Now, this is where the ecosystem having been built, we are part of an absolute, I would say, the key element of that overall strategy to build a complete platforms. Now, having done that, for someone of like us who wanted to enter now a shipbuilding, and of course starting with the smaller and the auxiliary ship, which is absolutely right because you start there and gradually build up yourself to some stage. And towards that, we had an advantage that the technology had started moving, and with those technologies, we could design and build a shipyard with absolutely the cutting edge Industry 4.0 technologies, which made us one of those very efficient shipyards. Now, this efficiency, what we built, obviously has been exploited. Today, when we are talking of exports, the government of India not only wants to export a platform, but with some of those extremely, I would say, friendly countries, they wouldn't mind giving them the ability of what we learned in these 60 years to be supporting that country to say, you can build these platforms here, I'll provide you a design, and I'll provide you the manufacturing techniques and methodologies and the entire processes which will enable you to build those there. So it's essentially granting a major capability to some of those friendly nations, and that's exactly where we are now moving. So while we have built our own platforms, we build our own entire set of equipment, we are also here to not only export platforms, but to grant that kind of a special capability to some of these friendly nations, and that's exactly where we were. Again, looking back till about 2010-11, we had hardly seen there was any possibility of exports, and there are few shining examples of those days. And Barracuda is precisely what Admiral Saxena talked about, and we had a significant role in terms of the equipment that went into Barracuda. But that point onwards, if we really look at, export was facilitated by the government only from 2015-16 onwards. And we have also seen that the kind of spiraling growth in exports that the country has seen. I remember in 2013-14, the exports had dwindled with some of the controls we brought in. from typically about 900, 950 crores to as little as around 400 crores. And from 400 crores to last year, having done 10,780 crores, 86 crores to be precise. Now, this has been a huge amount of jump. It's literally 16 times kind of a multiple, and even larger to that extent. So last 4-5 years has seen an enormous amount of exports. I would guess a large amount of it has actually come out of initial years, out of the offsets. But the post certain number of years later is truly what we have designed and built in the country. Now, one area where design and build has made India extremely strong is in the naval shipbuilding area. And when I say shipbuilding, is not only the vessel, but right entire ecosystem associated with it. Today, if a navy says, I have an old platform, I need a new class kind of capability. I want it to do a land attack system to be installed. I want an ASW capability to be granted to me. I want an air defense capability to be granted me, and state of the art latest. We today have each and every of these capabilities right within the country. We can simply go and empower, and that's essentially where the government clearances start making all the difference. So we have seen this is also behind us today. Government is extremely facilitative of taking this out. And at that stage, when we know that we can give elemental capabilities sort of modularly to be fitted out, this is the absolute right time to start doing a complete platform. Now, when we talk of complete platform, look at the history what Admiral Saxena very rightly talked about. We've done more than 90 ships in this country and 19 classes of vessels. Now, each of this is truly an intellectual property of the nation. Now, this is what truly can be exported in the form of a complete platform where we have absolute kind of a track record of having created them ab initio. Of course, the private shipyards have created some of the additional designs, but those are primarily on the auxiliary side. And that's essentially where today one can juggle around at least 20-25 classes of vessels, which India can say they have been created out of nothingness. And from that nothingness, the entire range is out, available to be exported out. And that's essentially where I agree with Admiral Saxena. We truly require a collaboration there.
Solar, making India self-reliant in ammunition.
Thank you for giving us the private sector's perspective on how India can become competitive in the global sphere, Mr. Patil. Cooperate and compete. Cooperation. That should be the motto going forward. I want to bring in Mr. Formoso, who's been listening to you very patiently. Mr. Formoso heads the India defense business of one of Europe's largest defense shipyards, Navantia. Now, Spain and Navantia's story is what we in India are trying to emulate. How Spain made the transition from being a builder's navy to an exporter's navy. And that's one of the reasons Mr. Formoso is here in India today to offer us technologies that Indian shipyards might not have. Mr. Formoso, before I ask you to speak, I want to tell you this very interesting Spanish maritime proverb that I read recently. Quien no se arrisca no pasa la mar, which means he who doesn't venture doesn't cross the sea. Could you tell us how Spain crossed the sea and became a defense exporter, a warship exporter?
Thank you. Well, first of all, I would like to say that it's a pleasure for me and a privilege to share this event with all of you. Admiral Saxena, Mr. Patil, Mr. Unitan, thank you for inviting me. And it has been a pleasure listening to both of you. Well, our main message today is yes, the leap is possible. And this is not an opinion. we say this based on our own experience. Navantia strongly believes in and is fully committed to the Make in India and Make for the World initiatives through transfer of technology programs, which are a reminder of our own story and that have taken us to the position in which we stand today. We started building ships with foreign designs, strategy, equipment, materials, and well, we have managed to evolve through transfer of technology, digitization, internal re-engineering, and a lot of effort to a situation where we now design, build, commission, and give life cycle support to the most advanced ships of the Spanish Navy. We think that this process can be replicated in any shipyard, and in fact, India is already on its way, and these initiatives of the government will boost the process. This, believe me, makes a difference. It's not the same if you have to walk alone or without the appropriate regulatory body. And now I would like to share with you the main keys that have helped us make the leap. First of all, I think it's very important to build up a good and stable relationship with your own Navy, because you need to have a balanced building plan over the years and reference ships already in operation to have access to the export market. It is very difficult to export if you only have a paper ship. And if the requirements of the Navy are demanding, are innovative, good, that is what you need, because it will help you to improve faster. Before you can export, you need to become competitive in all aspects, in technology, price, quality, time to market, you name it. Good is not enough. You need to position yourself among the best ones globally, because you are going to encounter those best ones everywhere you go. So benchmarking is a very important key. You have to guess where you are in with respect to these best ones, to your competitors, to the ones you are going to encounter when you export. And you have to identify your strengths and your weaknesses and make a plan, which includes infrastructure, technology, skills, and processes. Make a plan to improve your strengths even further and to try and get rid of your weaknesses. For example, many companies, the company has to act as one unity. Integration is very important. And we saw that many companies are vertical, very vertical. The departments, the silos have the power. And the horizontal view of the company is weak. We think that it's very important to find a balance between this vertical departmental view of the company and the horizontal view, the view of the project, of the product flowing through the processes. And of course, the integration is not only inside your company. You have to integrate also in your processes, your suppliers and your customers. You need strong project teams with good leaders. This is very important. Of course, you will have to select a good technological partner. For example, Navantia, why not? We have a lot of experience in technology, in transfer of technology programs. And lately, we have developed successful programs in Australia, Turkey, and Saudi Arabia, developing local capabilities through collaboration with industries, associations, and academia. And I think the same approach is good for India. Well, be patient. Being patient is very important because this process takes time. more than a leap, this is a progressive change or a continuous improvement. It never ends. And if you are feeling comfortable with what you do, maybe you have stopped improving. So it's very important that you are a little dissatisfied with what you are doing all the time. It's very important to try and increase your technological self-reliance and the indigenization in every program, little by little. Let us talk about Toyota, for example. They started this continuous improvement right after the Second World War. And even today, they say they have a lot of things to improve, and they are successful exporters. And we also think that competition is good. If you have tough competitors, this is very good because it will help you grow. Protection is not so good. You have to be exposed to the market. Another important thing is specialization. You cannot be the best in everything you do. You have to concentrate in the kind of ships you are more confident with building. And if you want to have a broad catalog, you have to split the company in several divisions, or you must have several shipyards. Then when you are already among the best ones, when you feel confident and you have the product you need, then you can start thinking of exporting. You will have to make a commercial plan, a global commercial plan, but it's very important to act local. It's very important to hire local people wherever you go and put them into your project team. We know several cases of shipyards naval shipyards that wanted to fill in the gaps between every naval program with merchant shipbuilding, and they reached an agreement with a foreign OEM with a very different culture, speaking another language, and they told us that the key to success, because they were able to make a profit from the very first ship they built with this design and the strategy and materials from the foreign OEM. The key was hire people, former employers of the OEM, because otherwise the different culture will be a big problem. And I think the most difficult thing when you export is understand your client's needs. It's very, very important to understand your client's needs. You have to give them not more, but not less. Not more, because if you give them more than you require, you will waste your resources, and not less, because otherwise you will have dissatisfied customers. So you have to be flexible. We know many shipyards that build fantastic ships, and they are cheap, very technological, but they're not flexible. And so maybe you think you have the most efficient design, and your customer is going to ruin it, asking for some modifications, but you have to find a balance between that efficiency you think you have and your customer needs.
Thank you, Admiral Saxena, Mr. Patil and Mr. Formoso, for that very engaging discussion. Our final session is on the big challenge of the small arms sector. While we talk about the big stuff, the tanks, the fighter jets and warships, we frequently forget the small stuff, the modern assault rifles, weapon sights and machine guns that our soldiers on the ground so badly need. While India has a large capacity to manufacture small arms, the need for modern weapons has prompted the Indian Army to look abroad for its requirements. When will India become Atmanirbhar in small arms? Joining me to find out are Mr. Hari Mohan, former Chairman, Ordnance Factory Board, Lieutenant General Sanjay Kulkarni, former Director General Infantry, and Mr. Vivek Krishnan, CEO, SSS Defence. Hello and welcome to this installment of the India Today Defence Conclave. Joining me on this panel today is a very distinguished group of speakers from all the stakeholders in the country relating to defence. I want the three of you to give us today an overview of the small arms sector in India as we move towards this huge path of indigenization and self-reliance and modernization. I want to start by calling on General Sanjay Kulkarni. General Kulkarni, welcome. Give us a perspective from the user's point of view on what you see the Indian small arms industry, what you need to live up to, what are the expectations from the Indian industry, and where you see our procurements headed over the next couple of years.
Thank you, Sandeep. At the very outset, I think I'm privileged because I know all of you very well. So that is something which is very nice, and we can all be very frank and honest, primarily because it affects the user. And as a user of a small arm, I can safely say, firstly, that we are very capable. As a nation, let's accept the very fact that we are a very, very capable nation of doing anything and everything. First. Second, why do I say, and why, even if you are capable, what is this capability meant for? We are one of the biggest users. So we have a huge market, which is our own. That's the defense forces, huge defense. We're the fourth largest defense force in the world. You can well imagine with such kind of a defense force, and a personal weapon would be a basic need for everybody, be it an army man, be it an air force, be it navy, be it coast guard, anybody and everybody to defend himself, he needs a personal weapon. So there's no denying the fact that small arm, whatever be its caliber, somebody may carry a pistol, somebody may carry a carbine, somebody might carry a LMG, somebody might carry an assault rifle, whatever be so. But a personal weapon for his own personal safety is a dire need, which is a must. Not just that, now we have a huge paramilitary forces and the police force. So you can well imagine, even if you have about 10 lakhs of them, another 13 lakhs of this, another lakh with the rest of them, what a market. Imagine the market that we have in India of small arms. It's amazing. It's something that is unbelievable that anybody and everybody would love to have this kind of a market. If you have a market, what is it that you just said in your introduction? We are importing. Why are we going? What need? Where is the need to import a personal weapon? I find there's just no need. But still, what is it that now makes us at other crossroads that we really need to import a weapon? Primarily, what is it that the user wants? That is the most important thing. If we know what the user wants, everything else can fall in its place. User wants a weapon, a caliber that he chooses. Whichever caliber. If he chooses that caliber, what is it that he's looking for a weapon? He wants accuracy. He wants reliability. He wants compactness. He wants to ensure easy maintainability. He wants to make sure that the weapon is easy to carry. If that be so, and of course, over a period of time, he is looking at a plus. Now, what is that plus that he looks for? If he can put some night sights along with it so that he can fire day in, day out. So even if he has the open sights, he can also put fixing sights for what does he need that for? He needs a Picatinny rail along with it. Can he fire some rocket, not rocket, grenades along with it? There's some attachment for the grenades if you could fire upon. What else does he need? He wants a weapon with a range. He might have specified a range. It could be 500 meters, it could be 300 meters, it could be 200 meters. If he's looking for a sniper rifle, it could be another 2 kilometers or 1.5 kilometers, depending on the kind of role that he's doing and the kind of weapon that he looks at it. If that be so, where are we failing then? Why have of late, when from, I would say, we were supplying weapons right from Second World War, till we have now, for the first time ever, imported weapons in 2020 or so, starting 2019 and 2020. And now what is this sudden transformation from where we were equipping our troops with our own indigenized weapon and we had to resort to importing a weapon? That is what is alarming. Where does the user feel so? And what I would now he finds, if a weapon is not reliable, now when he talks of reliability, he's looking at certain time that it should be able to fire. He could have a magazine of 30 rounds, he could be having a magazine of 20 rounds, he could be having a magazine of 10 rounds. It doesn't really, as long as he can fire the kind of magazines that is entitled, if he's carrying 5 magazines with him, he should be able to fire. First shot, the moment he puts his finger onto the trigger, it should fire. And it should fire where he wants it to fire. And if it is not accurate, and if it just fires, it is of no use. If it is accurate, but if it doesn't hit the target or doesn't, the weapon is of no use. So therefore, ammunition also must be reliable. The weapon also must be reliable. It should be able to give to the user whatever task and role that is performing. He should feel happy and confident. That's the weapon that he had. That confidence is very, very important in any soldier, what he carries. If he is not very confident going in, now we found that over a period of time, we had a 7.62 mm SLR, before that a 303. After that, we transformed to an INSAS rifle. And after having so much, we found that roles changed a little bit in an asymmetric warfare and hybrid warfare. We found that we were into the insurgency role, where the man wanted to fire to be able to kill the militant, whoever had fired at him. So now in an insurgency role, especially in India, how do you know that he's a militant? Only when he's fired on you. When you're fired upon, that you know that this chap is a militant. Otherwise, you're not firing on anybody. How would you know? You just don't fire at anybody. After all, human rights is a very important thing. We are a democracy. We don't just fire helter-skelter anyway. Only when you're fired upon, you fire. And when you are fired upon, that means as it is, you're at disadvantages because you have been fired upon. Now the second round is your round to be fired upon, and you must fire. And you must fire to be able to knock down that militant, whoever it be so. So we have moved from what we had earlier, a caliber which was killing, 7.16 to 51. We moved to a caliber which was 5.56 into 45, which was incapacitating. And again, we have gone back to a caliber which is, we wanted killing. That is 7.60 to 51. We are retaining 7.60 to 39 also. We are having 5.56 into 45 also. But the caliber, the assault rifle has again moved back to aim being to kill. If that be so, the most important thing I find is lethality, maintainability, accuracy, and to ensure that the weapon is easy to carry, easy to maintain. That's it. It's not asking for more. I'm not, the GSQR, we will not discuss what muzzle velocity it wants, what kind of ammunition does it need to be fired upon, what is the length and what is the this thing and the bayonet, and we'll not discuss that. When I say a weapon, it can't be more than 3.5 kg to 4 kg if it's an assault rifle. It must be a light weapon because after all, as it is loaded up with so much, you give him a weapon which is about 5.5 and 6 kgs, it will be very difficult. Then you would rather go in for a LMG, a light machine gun, than an assault rifle. So we're just confining ourselves to certain, because it's a huge lot of weapons that would come into your personal weapon. Having said that, I find that yes, we are capable. We have, because I've been associated with the ordnance factories, and I can tell you the capability exists. That they are not able to do, well, we'll have first Mr. Harimohan to tell us as to what ails and what has gone wrong, whether is the user at fault, is it the manufacturer at fault, is it the DRDO or the ARD at fault, or is it the user who's very choosy, or are we a little more complacent to be able to provide a weapon which is not meeting the user, this thing, or is it the ergonomically the weapon doesn't seem to look the way it should be looking, or we really not have the art of being able to compare ourselves with weapons of foreign origin. Because weapons of foreign origin, the moment it's placed on the table, you know that this weapon is of a foreign origin and this weapon is ours. Why should that be so? Is the metallurgy to be seen, or is it some modernization methods that we really need to relook, or is it the goalposts are changing so often that the manufacturer is not able to cope up with the user's fast mind, and the designer is not able to give the kind of weapon that the user is looking at in a short span of time, whatever be so. Various factors that could come. Having said that, I would say just this much. User in India is extremely happy and proud if he carries a weapon which is made in India. No denying the fact. He has never carried a weapon which is other than made in India. Let's be honest about it. He's always carried. What really changed, transformed, was the AK-47. When AK-47 got introduced, maybe with the weaponry available freely with all state actors and non-state actors and everybody and anybody, that AK-47, that was seen as a weapon which is reliable, trustworthy, and can be fired at whatever time with no repairs, minimum spare parts, easy to carry, easy to fire, and that is what it was, and could carry single shots, bursts, whatever you wanted it, and it was a weapon which every soldier wanted. Maybe, I'm just saying, maybe the introduction or the coming in of AK-47 actually changed the mind of a soldier, and he thought, why not have a weapon which is lighter to carry like this, be able to fire at ease, and very small spare parts, easy to maintain and easy to carry. So that is where the whole thing goes. So user is not very fussy. User is very happy if he can get a weapon which, press the trigger, the shot should be fired.
Vivek, without much ado, I want to ask you this one question, that when will India see its Mausers, Heckler & Koch and AK-47 making companies?
Sandeep, the very essence of Atmanirbhar Bharat generally seems to be about buying an Indian weapon, right? Now, where I tend to differ in respect is the substance and the form of it, right? Atmanirbhar Bharat to me is not just purely about buying an Indian weapon. It is about future-proofing the army. It is about ensuring that we're not just kind of limiting our focus to what the army needs right away, but also making sure that for the next 50 years, they don't have to go anywhere else, right? If the US advances, 10 paces ahead, we are able to match that as well. And that is likely to happen because the US, or for that matter, China, are at the same time, as we speak, working on the next generation of weapons, right? So an area which was really not as well developed in terms of technology is suddenly started getting a lot of that particular traction. So future-proofing is one. The second one, of course, is to be able to continuously deliver in terms of new, new weapon systems which are very, very particular to the Indian environment. The fact is this, right? A Russian has a different environment. The Americans have a different environment. We have a mix of all of them, right? So to say that, fine, an Indian weapon, as long as it performs in Russia or performs well in the US, it's going to be performing well in India, that's a misnomer. It doesn't work that way. So the complications of the Indian environment would mean that we kind of focus on that as well. Third is that in spirit, yes, this is very, very important. And mark my words, it is equally important that the spirit of Atmanirbhar Bharat ensures that what we're doing at this point in time is going to result in more and more of our scientists and engineers being proud about the products that come out of India and ensure that they manufacture in country, as against trying to put forward future views that we should be buying out of Russia or the US or the European countries, right? So now that I've given you where I kind of stand in terms of Atmanirbhar Bharat, my own judgment today is that we are easily about 20 years behind in terms of technology. The Americans have constantly evolved. The Europeans have constantly evolved. The working operating systems are one and the same. I mean, you have a DI operating system, you have a short stroke piston, and possibly have the AK-47 based long stroke piston system. But where things have literally taken a massive change for the better is in terms of the internal workings, what materials you might use, the way in which ergonomics is given value. And that is the area where I think Indian industry is now trying to kind of evolve in, trying to make what you have as a given even better. And my view is that we are very, very close to kind of getting there, but yet we will still continue to be a couple of steps behind them. The objective of Indian private industry over the course of the next few years is to change the goalpost. And I'm being very candid here. The idea is not to say, let the army come across and tell us what they want, right? That's how things used to happen 20 years back. And I hope General Kulkarni kind of agrees with me as well. The future should be about the private sector basically going across and saying, look, this is what we can give you. You tell me whether this can work in your circumstance, whether this will work in the environment that you actually want to fight in, right? Our objective would be to kind of give you the product, get you the training as far as the product is concerned. Your job as the forces would be to teach us the art of war. Tell us how this works. Give us an idea about how the soldier touch points actually get the weapon to be used. How does the weapon perform when rubber hits the road, right? So I actually believe that the future is going to be about co-development between the forces and private industry. You can also see that in the artillery space. I believe that the small arms space will actually have to see some programs of that variety. Now, so I told you as to where it is going. Now, remember one thing, right? For this to happen, you need skin in the game, right? Clearly, that's one word I will constantly emphasize. Skin in the game from the side of the forces, skin in the game from the side of the Indian manufacturers, skin in the game from the DRDO as well, right? And what do I mean by this? The basic argument is this. Till now, we've been looking at big bang acquisitions, right? So we need to buy 350,000 carbines, we need to buy 750,000 assault rifles. The numbers are never small. The numbers are never, manageable. They're all massive, big numbers. And what happens when you kind of think really long and big is that, yes, that's good ambition sort of have, but it takes away from the fact that your first priority is to have a good working weapon. As General Kulkarni said, it's a reliable weapon that can be manufactured in India, where the design rights are held in India, where tomorrow going forward, you do not have to depend upon any foreign country for spares. You don't have to depend upon any foreign source to continue production of the weapon in India. So if that is the objective, then I personally believe that the army needs to have skin in the game. What it needs to do is possibly mount what I call solicitations, right? Solicitations need not be for 500,000 weapons. They could be for bringing in a portfolio of, let's say, 100,000 weapons, quickly running through the testing process, the entire gamut of tests, environmental tests, drop tests, reliability testing, using protocols which are globally standard, right? And then trying to see if we can induct some of these weapons to ensure that the forces actually get to use some of these weapons in the real world. The point is that when you actually do that, you get solid feedback. There are bound to be weapon inadequacies which will come. And there are bound to be some very, very positives which need to get better in the next round. But in the course of this, what happens is that over the course of the next 4 to 5 years, we will actually have something as close as possible to a SIG or a Glock. Right? If we kind of decide that we need to buy once and we're going to be buying for the next 20 years, in the course of the next 20 years, the systems would have been taken over. I mean, the doctrine of technology and war would have kind of taken over in entirely different directions while we're still looking at, let's say, a weapon which survived the past 50 years. Right? Do I think that the AK-203, for instance, will see action by the Russians in the next 20 years? Most likely not. Right? Do I think that we should have something which is as good or even better than the AK-15 or the AK-12s or the SIGs in India? Yes, absolutely yes. Okay, and the one way to look at this is stop doing big bang, try to find a whole lot of smaller bangs, right? And that is where I think industry needs to kind of come work closely with the army and co-developments. And I can clearly see that positiveness happening at this point in time. It is definitely because of the fact that private sector is coming in here that we're seeing some of these actions happening. As far as private industry is concerned, skin in the game again. We should stop this whole idea that private sector should get a contract before it does its investment. Private sector owes its responsibility to the army to complete its R&D investments, to have factory and operations ready, to have the supply chain systems in place before they say, fine, army, give me a contract. To say that, fine, I will do the tougher job once the army gives me a contract is a little too far-fetched, right? It is the reason why companies and acquisitions fail in the first place, right? But skin in the game also means there is mutual trust, right? It can only happen when the army says, I'll take a little punch for you, you take a few punches for me.
I'm going to ask Mr. Hari Mohan to make his points about the whole, how he sees small arms, the indigenization of small arms, and the way ahead.
First of all, let me tell you, the small arms business is not a small business first. And then when you have to do this in the industry, it has to be economic. You should be able to sustain economically on a long-term basis. Unless until an industry you are able to sustain on an economic basis, it is very difficult to service the army or armed forces on a long-term basis. Whatever venture we are going in, this has to be profit generating, and it should be able to support that industry. Any industrialist may sink in some money initially, maybe for initial 2 years or 3 years. Thereafter, everybody who's there in the industry looks this as a business. And unless until as a business it is successful, it cannot survive. This reality we will have to accept. Now the second thing which I would like to mention, why are we in this state? Do we have any dearth of technology? Do we have any problem on technical capability? Do we have shortage of engineers? Do we have a shortage of scientists? My answer would be no. We have enough engineers, we have enough capability, we have enough infrastructure in under MOD as well as in DRD. Now you look at the acquisition of Indian Army. See, they have been looking for an assault rifle, and then the thinking was that they will continue with 5.56 45 weapon. And that is why under the guidance of Indian Army, we were developing, the ordnance factories were developing 5.56 45 weapon, the INSAS caliber weapon, and it was a monoblock receiver kind of a weapon. And with while your INSAS weapon is not an automatic rifle, and INSAS 1C, what was popularly being called, it was an automatic weapon, and it had met all the criteria of reliability, maintainability, accuracy. And the weapon, when it was last tried out, was almost accepted by the trial team, and they said that this weapon can be inducted into Indian Army. So this shows that we have the capability. One part is your economics, another part is your technical capability. Now, where have we really gone wrong? What has gone wrong? Why the army had to import? I would say that it is a more of a system failure. Unless until all the stakeholders, the user, manufacturer, designer, all put together, unless until they work in a unison manner, in a synergetical manner, it is difficult to produce a weapon and produce a weapon in bulk. See, when army came out with their philosophy that they don't want 5.56 45, they want 7.62 51 weapon. Again, in the leadership of DG Infantry, there was a project monitoring team made, and then the ordnance factory started working on 7.62 51 weapon. Within 6 months, they could come out with a prototype with meeting most of the GSQR requirements. And that weapon, by now, it has come into an excellent shape. That weapon has been tried out by the team of officers from MHA, and they have accepted that weapon, and Home Secretary has written to all the forces that this weapon you can consider, especially for long-range purposes, and that work is going on. Why I am saying all this, that there is a technical capability in the country. Now, this capability is not only in ordnance factories, it is in the ecosystem. Ordnance factories, when we are making this weapon, maybe 40 to 50% of the components, or you can say 40% or 50% of the share of the weapon making, they are outsourcing. Like many of the plastic parts we outsource, many of the springs we outsource, many components we outsource, the metal injection molding parts, which are one of the integral part of these weapons, that also we are dependent on private industry, our Indian industry, and our Indian industry is exporting the small arm parts, especially the metal injection molded parts. They are already being exported. So country has full-fledged technical capability to service any requirement of our armed forces. This is my belief. And if there is any gap, that gap can be filled up within 6 months or within 1 year. I do not know whether any technology which is not available in the country. The barrel making, cold swelling capability is available, and all kind of CNC machines are available either in public sector or in private sector. So there is nothing which we cannot make. I have been to the most modern plant of Russia, that is Izhbask, the Kalashnikov rifle plant, and I have spent almost 5 days in that plant, and I have gone from one corner to another corner. Let me share with you that whatever facilities they are having, there is nothing which we do not have or which we cannot acquire quickly. The Russians themselves, while talking on AK-03 subject, they have confirmed ample number of times that the weapons what Russians are making at Kalashnikov factory, everything is producible in this country. So then, where have we gone wrong? I would say maybe a little absence of synergy. Users expect certain things from the producer expects something from the user, and we keep on expecting from each other, and the meeting grounds had not been many. My submission to the forum that we have no dearth of technical capability. We have to come out with a business model which can sustain in the long run, and there has to be a perfect synergy between the user and the producer and the designer. We can come out with a solution.
Solar, making India self-reliant in ammunition.
Now I want to ask General Kulkarni one question. Based on what Vivek and Mr. Hari Mohan have raised, there's a common thread in what both of them said. The fact is that the need for synergy between the users and the producers, and also the fact that this big bang approach of 500,000 weapons, or 300,000, 700,000 weapons should be replaced by a small bang approach, as Vivek said. So why is it that the army doesn't believe in this concept of a Mark 1, which you kind of, with successive iterations, you can go on improving, and thereby improve and create a weapon, or indeed a family of weapon systems?
Everyone has said whatever he had to say. At the end of it, probably somebody who's listening to us would say that if everybody is right, then where are things going wrong here? The user seems right in his own way, the manufacturer seems right in his own way, the designer seems right in his own way. We have the capacity, we have the capabilities, we have the will, we have the capital, we have the market, we have everything.
Yes, we are one of the world's largest small arms importers.
Yeah, we have everything. We are the 4th largest army, and we need it. Not that the very fact that we need it, we are importing also. Then why all this is happening? I think there is a mismatch. Where is the mismatch? Now, what is it? Now, I would go along with what you and Mr. Hari Mohan said, that we could go for small numbers, but that's not the approach that is generally being followed. After all, the army is a huge army. And imagine the inventory management. Supposing we were to get 5,000 weapons at any point of time, which is a very good thing. Now, what would this 5,000 go? To a particular brigade only? Or would you want them to go across the army, which is a few lakhs? a few 100,000, where would you want it to go like? It can't go everywhere. So the fact is, I would much like what had been suggested, which we were following also in the model of the JVPC, the order for 5,000 was given also. Now let's take the test case of the JVPC itself, because all of us are here who are aware and it's been in for such a long time. Such a long time, and 5,000 have been ordered that yes, please supply 5,000 JVPCs and let's get on with it. As yet, I've retired almost 5 years back as DG Infantry here. So I know that this has been on since then, and we've been hand-holding this project to ensure that there is a success seen in this particular project or multi-mode grenade project. We wanted success because we are all as passionate, as Indianized as anybody else would be. No soldier, as I said at the very outset, is looking at a weapon or a ammunition coming from abroad. He much would like it to be his own, as long as it is reliable, as long as it is safe. Because safety is of paramount importance to anybody. One wouldn't want to lose a single man life. That is something which is not acceptable at all. Now, where is the thing? Why do we not be able to do what we are wanting to do? I think where the thing is, we are all government. And when we are all government, this is a big problem that comes up with. Now, who is the person who's a manufacturer? Say in this case, let's take only the ordnance factory. We'll keep Vivek out of it as yet, because Vivek hasn't yet started, getting involved with us in such a manner now, with the indigenization coming in, with privatization being allowed to come in, and now you'll find models of Vivek also succeeding in collaboration, because they bring in the technology, they bring in the art, they bring in the business models also, and they would want to succeed with the kind of business model. So it's a win-win situation for all. And the user is the beneficiary because he gets the best. That is the way I look at it. Now, let's take the case of any weapon that you wanted it. Let's take what Mr. Haribon said, 7.16 to 51. We were able to produce it in 6 months' time. I remember Mr. Parikar having told them, they accepted the challenge, they didn't go along with it to make it in 6 months. The DG Infantry was made the PMG, he went along with it. And at the end of it, what happened? We have ended up importing a 7.62 to 51, not one, but a repeat order of the same one. What was the use of it? Now, if that means the perception is different, the reality is different, and what's happening on ground is probably nobody's aware of what is going on. In each one of them is working in their, in their own silos. I would have much liked at the very outset, whoever is the person controlling it. Now let's take in this particular case, is the MOD, which is responsible to ensure whether the weapon would be imported, yes or no. It is the MOD. However, little financial powers may be given to each one of us, depending upon the rank and everything, and to the army commanders to import it, now the vice chief to import it, but that's a very limited number. The kind of amount and quantity required is large. So they can only import a small number. They could have imported a smaller number of snipers, a smaller number of things, but not a huge thing unless the MOD say. If the MOD or anybody for that matter sitting on top had to decide that yes, this is the weapon which will be manufactured in India, I am not, repeat, not going to be imported for whatever it be. Let's say, how would they not do it? They would do it. Everybody has to sit on the same table. They aren't sitting on the same table. I know for sure they aren't sitting on the same table because nobody, again, as I said, it's government. In the government, moment you go hierarchical, manufacturing is not a hierarchical project. It could be a colonel competing with somebody or interacting with somebody who's far ahead in his pay scales or everything. But the man important is the colonel. He is the battalion commander. He is the man who wants the kind of weapon that it is. In between are all kinds of people who do manufacturing at that level. The hierarchical difference is who is interacting with them. A lower level man. It's a lower level man who can interact, but is not a decision-making man. So whoever it is, it has to be a decision-making man who has to be interacting with it, who says, yes, it will be done like this. You tell them to change one spring, you will have the DGQA come in between. No, this cannot be done. There are hundreds of ways of when to do it and when how to introduce it. And after 6 months, you find the spring there is. The user gets very frustrated. That, well, I did last time say that this particular oil spills over to my eye. Why hasn't it stopped the very next day? That is what he's looking at. But the spillover will stop after almost 3-4 years. It would have lost its sheen. Now, where are the troops? The troops are moving from place A to place B to place C. That means from almost in an active to a non-active to some training or something. So he's again coming back to active after 5-6 years. He finds the same weapon, the same fault, the same this thing. So it's a huge this thing which requires a concerted effort.
So, Mr. Harimon, I want to take off from where General Kulkarni mentioned this thing about sitting in a room or in a table, you know, the need to work together. I mean, everything is there. All the capabilities are there. You have trained personnel. Everything is in the country. Then what is it that prevents all the stakeholders from actually sitting around a table? Is it the fact that there's no one to really bell the cat? What is the problem? Why can't all the stakeholders work together?
I'll give you a few examples when they were, do you know the story of Sumo vehicle? Sumo vehicle was developed by Tata. And it has been, repeatedly tried by the armed forces. And armed forces rejected that vehicle. And it was so nicely developed, it has come out as something like a cross-country vehicle. And Tata took a full advantage of it, and they have launched this in the civilian market. And now I have seen some army officers saying, some armed forces officers saying, कि हमसे पूरा ट्रायल करवाया, हमसे पूरी मेहनत करवाई, हमसे गाड़ी डेवलप करवाई, और जो है देखिए पूरा उसमें से Tata is doing business. This is one example. The second example, JVPC, it has come to shape only because of effort of army. Effort of army means by demanding, give me this feature, give me this feature, give me this feature. And this is one of the unique weapon, 5.56, 30 caliber, nowhere in the world. This ammunition also got developed parallelly, and the biggest advantage is this weapon goes to somebody else's hand, he will not get the ammunition. Because nobody else makes the ammunition, we only make this ammunition. And again, the advantage is being taken by the Chhattisgarh police. Chhattisgarh police is very happy with this weapon. They were the first customer to take it. And whatever General Kulkarni was telling, police role is different, I know. But the police which is fighting with the Naxals, their role is not limited. Their role is maybe slightly less than the army, but they are also fighting. Now, coming back to the problem of system failure or management failure. Again, I'll give you one data. Why more than 70% of RFPs of army doesn't fructify? Army issues, you can take out the statistics. So many RFPs are issued, 5 firms, 10 firms have participated, and ultimately maybe 20 to 25% only fructify. And they also fructify how many? 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. There are cases which are there from 2009 onward, the cases are still on. 11 years. How do you expect any participant to hold the prices? So that is the scenario, and this is where we need to really have the correction. And I fully agree with the Kulkarni Sahab that we need to be together in a mission mode, and they have to be given a time-bound task. Here is the manufacturer, here is the designer, here is the user, and we are giving the best team of officers, and you are given a task within 6 months, achieve this much, within 9 months, achieve this much, and within 1 year, you achieve this much. That approach is really going to give results. Now, coming back to the points of Mark 1, Mark 2, Mark 3, and Mark 4. See, 84mm RL, recoilless rocket launcher. Armies started with Mark 1, then they took Mark 2, now they are holding Mark 3, Mark 4 is ready, and Mark 4 also they will take. See, when there is a graded approach, there can be a plan that Mark 1 will be phased out, or Mark 1 will be taken in a limited quantity. You take maybe 5% of your requirement, only allow Mark 1. Now you say you come out with Mark 2. You have to take a graded approach. See, if you want indigenously developed, which can support you throughout the life, you want the indigenous weapon, then you have to support the manufacturer or designer. If you want a perfect solution on day of induction, and then you want to live for 15, 20 years, that is also not right. See, there also you look for upgrades. Now, see, T-90, T-72 tanks, whatever are there with the Indian Army, when they are going for overall, they are getting upgraded. Whatever upgrade we could have realized during the life, those upgrades are getting added on the tanks. So similarly, See, you may not be able to source the spares from maybe from a foreign country, but then if the original manufacturer is in India, you can get the spares of Mark 1, you can get the spares of Mark 2. It is possible. See, now Bofors gun, you are having 400 guns. The Bofors spares you are not able to get from Bofors. The Bofors spares, ordnance factories are giving. Whatever items, there are certain components which are common to Dhanush. Those spares are being given by ordnance factories. So you have a big advantage if you have the manufacturer in the control of the country. And that advantage we should never forget, and that advantage we should encash. And I fully agree with Sanjay Kulkarni Sahab. Whenever you are taking in a developmental work, do not involve the bureaucratic channels. Bureaucratic channels means do not involve army headquarters. Involve field army officers. Give the officers who have little technical acumen, and they have there are people who have, they will see the Dhanush gun. I am telling you, it has taken shape because of some of the army officers who were in mission mode. And during the success of Dhanush gun, we have invited those majors and brigadiers who have become now brigadiers and major generals. We have invited them at that point, and they say with lot of pride that they were instrumental in developing Dhanush. See, technical solution is very easy. Design solution is very easy, but the user's perspective, meeting the user's requirement, that is most important.
Vivek, do you get a sense that we are actually driving, looking into the rearview mirror and not looking ahead, and we actually run the risk of falling behind the R&D advances that the rest of the world is making in small arms?
Whatever we've been trying to do all this while in terms of improvements is marginal improvements, right? And the world has moved far, far ahead. And I don't honestly believe that in terms of identifying those technologies and figuring out ways in which they can be part of our weapons, the ecosystem has even got it anywhere close. And how is it that I can say that with complete assurance? Because of the fact that we integrate the design side, we integrate the manufacturing side, we integrate the quality side. So when we're able to put all of this together and have the manufacturing in country is when we realize that there will be certain areas where the age-old practices will work, and there are some areas where they will just fall apart. And what foreign countries are basically trying to do is, they've invested the last 20 years in trying to make certain things even better. Minor stuff like coatings, they've gone way, way ahead of us, right? The metallurgy, as much as Jordan's factory can say that we have the best metallurgy, etc., all of that, I keep I keep going back to that same point. If that was to be the case and you had the best designers and all of that stuff, why is it we're still trying to push forward the insets until a few years back? And why is it that today we've got to buy something which is an AK clone and not even the most advanced AK clone? Let's be honest about this. That's the truth. I'm not stating anything which is a surprise. It is a fact. So the reason why we're kind of in this position is because of mistakes which have happened in the past. Face it. The reason why we should not be in this position 5 years from now are amply clear. The most important thing that we need to do right now is this. Identify pockets of innovation, right? Those pockets of innovation are not in the public sector, and I'll tell you why. There's a very nice quote from a very good book by Malcolm Gladwell, and he says, the reason why in the biblical theater, when we're talking about David and Goliath, the reason why Saul was not confident about David's ability to beat Goliath was because he was imagining power in terms of physical capabilities, right? What he failed to understand was that you can actually find a way to make up for those physical capabilities by breaking the rules, by being agile and fast, and by thinking out of the box, right? If you want to replace the same ecosystems as they were there over the course of the past 30 years, and you want to try and, experiment with the same thing over and over again and try and push that forward for the next 20 years, I'm sorry, we're going to be in the same spot 20 years from now, right? What the private industry and firms like us, and I hope many other firms in the future as well, will try and do is they will try and break the rules. They will try and come up with products which are going to bring forth the advantages which have already been tried and tested by foreign militaries, right? And they're going to think asymmetrically. They're not going to think linear. I'm telling you very clearly, the ability today that we have to do in-country design, development, and manufacturing is far better than what it was 4 years back. And 4 years back, when we started off, we imagined that it would take us 20 years to get there. All it took was thinking out of the box. It did not require us to have the mindset that physical strength determined success. You had to break the rules, we broke the rules, and that's why we are here. And the only reason why I believe that this is likely to succeed in the future is because of the fact that we right now at crossroads. Either we decide to upgrade or we decide to stay in the same situation as where we are and keep buying foreign stuff, right? That crossroad is very clear. You either can manufacture in India or you can basically import. If you want to import, that's a personal choice, but you're not going to be anywhere in the course of the next 10 years. That's absolutely clear to me as well. So the army is in a situation where, like General Kulkarni said, there is no alternative but to sit down with the people who are best positioned to deliver.
Thank you very much, Mr. Harimohan. And with that, we come to the end of a very, very exciting discussion. And I think the big point here is that when you come to Atmanirbhar in small arms, as all our panelists have just said, that the answers lie within. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us. Thank you for your time. With that, we come to the end of the first India Today Defence Conclave. We would like to thank our presenting sponsor, Darwin Platform Group of Companies, and our associate sponsors, Navantia and Solar Group, for helping us organize this event. We hope these discussions were as enlightening for you as they were for us. Remember, national security is vital for our economic and social progress, and the India Today Defence Conclave will give you clarity on this very vital sector. Thanks for watching.